get asked this every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
At this point, I mean.
So that means your answer should be precise.
My dad got me a little, like a G7X for Christmas because he wanted me to do more film. I got asked yesterday, like, you do film, right? I'm like, no. This is like this morning, like just before I came here. Something's been trying to lead me there, which is confusing because this is the end of my scholastic journey as an undergraduate. This is the end. This is the part where I've like done it and I know what I'm doing and I'm digging my teeth into it and that's that. But that's, and then something comes and goes, actually, I would like you to do this.
I mean, it's always good to see like what's orbiting me.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Or what you know what it is too? It's like it's very little resistance where people where you how you show up naturally.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what other people's motivations are. I ask because you're very expressive in front of the camera. So it's like you can carry the attention for people looking at you.
Yeah.
To be like, yo, who is this person?
Right. Okay.
This like soul or meaning or life, and you can use that to carry a message. You can use that to carry a story.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've ever thought about that.
That I haven't thought about, but I've thought about carrying messages and carrying stories in other ways. I think about less of like more hearing the words that I say. That's something that I've recognized as impactful in a way that I did not know was before 3 weeks ago. Just recognizing the kind of power that can be carried in various words, whether I say them or I am like a vessel through which the words can go from sort of up here in the air and being ideological to taking form and being in someone else's head.
The words.
The words.
What happened 3 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago, I gave a presentation, and a lot of people cried. And not because it was bad. And I didn't realize that I could write things to express the importance of somebody else's work and have that mean so much to another person that it could bring them to that kind of place emotionally. And then I did it without another person. I talked directly to people, and I just was like doing what I felt like, which was just expressing their own importance and making sure that they were aware of it, making sure that they knew how valued, how accepted, how loved, how like innately important they were to whatever it was they're doing, whether they're walking, whether they're breathing, and that brought people to tears. I think it was just like an interesting dynamic where it was like, A, why are you all crying? Is everything okay? But also like, are you guys just crying because I said that and that's happened? Like how are my words becoming a catalyst for that kind of, I don't know, that kind of powerful emotional upbringing? I didn't know that. So I thought about that. Which is why I thought about maybe that the power of those words should be in the written form brought into the spoken form, which I guess could easily be could be expanded into the cinematographic world. That's possible. I don't dispute the possibility of creative forms coming to me in ways that I don't expect. I want to be able to have them do whatever they want, and I just am able to just be a vessel for whatever's supposed to be the medium of the time, the medium of the season, to serve me and serve the world and the communities around me and the people that I want to, whose souls and faces and images and stories I want to just like push out and bring to the forefront. Whatever medium that is, I want it to just be able to work through me.
Has that been like what your journey being here has been, like multiple mediums, or have you found like a specific medium to do that?
I've tested different ones.
Like, sure.
I started off at Bennington. I wanted to study the classics. I thought that the most important thing in the world was to know what the Greeks and Romans did and to praise them for it forever. I think that's hilarious now. And I think it's hilarious because I know whose backs they built those legacies on. And so I praise that now. And I lift that up now. And I do my best to tell the stories of those descendants now. So it's very different. It's moved from a space of, let's study the classics, let's study what history has been heralded as, to let's look at what's not being said and let's shout about that. Or what is possible, what can be brought out through the bridging of two seemingly completely contestant elements. Like, what do we think about a circle in the parliament? Can we mesh that somehow? And I started with architecture. Well, I moved to architecture from there, where I was like, okay, let's think about what a circle means in terms of what indigenous histories I'm aware of in my own culture, in Zimbabwean culture, what I know of what we can and cannot trust, what we can and cannot believe all of the time, in our own governmental systems, and so many that are just across the world and across our continent, the African continent, that is. And what can be expressed through architecture, what can be expressed through, when you walk into a building, what does that do? When you walk into a space, how does the construction of that space, the elements in that space, affect the person who is now a part of it? How does it affect me differently if I'm on a wooden floor in a wooden chair versus in a plastic chair on a tile floor? How would that make me feel different about this experience? How would it make people from different places feel differently? And what can be done with the spaces around us to prompt what we want to come out of this world, and to prompt what we want to see in our societies, in our social circles, in our environmental environments? What can come through in that way? I wanted to see what was possible there. So I started with architecture. As it turned out, my ideas were getting bigger, my models were getting smaller. And the size was the problem for me, where there was so much that I needed to express, so much more that I needed to say, that architecture couldn't hold. So I left it, and I went back to the medium that had been integral to my expression as a being and to my growth as a teenager, which was photography. And I returned to that, and it is my first love still. And I went back to it in a way that was very different, I think, but also so much the same as to when I was 16, 17, and making images and talking to strangers in New York and asking to make portraits of them, to doing installation and photo work when I was a senior in high school, and trying to figure out what it meant to feel so boxed inside of a label, of an identity that I didn't feel corresponded to me. And now looking outwards, I was looking less inwards and more outwards. I was trying to think about, in this moment, what are the essences of what I have come to describe as a diasporic identity? How can those be expressed? What is it that can mold and divide and shape and influence an identity in such a way that is intrinsically unique to the person themselves, but also unique to an African identity of some sort, of any sort? What does that mean? And how can those voices be lifted? How can we amplify more African voices, more African diasporic voices? How can we create more community where there has been so much dispersal? So I did photo, still do photo, love photo. And then I brought in different things, and I've been trying to just bring different things in. Podcasting has been a big one. Writing has been another one. Poetry. And then I just started humming a lot. I don't know, over the past couple of months or so. After I got back from Zimbabwe, I started humming a lot. And it was only when something needed to settle. And so anytime I need to settle something, I just start humming. And I think I've been recently sort of very interested in this idea of vibration and these different concepts of what exists at the vibrational level that also exists in the physical, how are these things congruent. And what I've sort of been finding is that the vibrational can come to and heal from whatever plane is currently the one I'm existing on. I don't know what to call it. So humming's helped. So there's, and I don't know if humming is a medium. I suppose to somebody it probably is. But there's just been this interesting flow, ebb and flow, of various expressions of probably the same thing in different forms. And it's been able to digress and to augment and to just grow in strength and in some ways sophistication as I've gotten older and as I've explored more mediums. And I don't know if there's an end. I don't know if there's a kind of end goal. I don't know if there's a kind of stopping point. I think a stopping point would be a sort of failure. I think I should just end everything with a question mark and see what happens. So, yeah.
So many questions.
Okay.
Is it... All right, so one clarifying question.
Yes.
When you said you hum to settle things, like what do you mean settle? I want to double click on that. Or like disputes?
The hum is to settle anything within me that does not feel at peace.
Oh, so it's a thing that you do to ground.
Yeah.
I assume.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So like, do you like hum a song, or you just like vibe, just reverberate? Sometimes
I hum a song, but also sometimes I hum the harmonies to one specific song, which is the Lord's Prayer in Swahili. But I don't speak Swahili, but I heard the song and it spoke to me, so I hum that sometimes.
Do you know the words of it? Or do you just hum?
Like the title of the song, as it's now called, is Baba Yetu, which means Our Father, which is the first line of the Lord's Prayer. And I don't know the words well enough to speak them, but I know the melody well enough to hum it. So, yeah. So I do that.
So it's like a vibrational prayer.
Very much so.
And you feel it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that clarity.
Mm-hmm.
The other part to it is like your mediums. Are they more like communicative outlets for you? Are they like? Are you trying to? Is there something you're trying to say, and you're figuring out the different ways that bring you closer to your articulation?
Yeah.
Is that? I don't want to box it in. I'm just trying to get more.
No. That's totally a valid question. A lot is happening in each medium. Okay, so there's a lot of things, but I will say that yes, in some ways, each medium is a way to try and figure out and articulate in the best way that I can in that moment, in that season, what it is I'm trying to say and how best to say it. Yes. However, I think I already know what I have to say. I think that what each medium allows is for it to become more clear or less clear, and that will lead me to wherever it is that I'm supposed to be, to clarify that message and to make sure that it's heard. And I think some mediums come to me at a time where it feels like I need to look deeper inwards and allow the message to sort of circulate within before I express it. So things like writing are good for that sometimes. There's a tactility and a different physical relationship to each medium that makes it very different, because the level of energy that it takes to make each message come through that medium is different. And so sometimes it feels like there's too much that's going out to make this thing try and happen. And so I'm fighting with it. And I don't like to fight too much with the work that I'm doing. I'll tussle with it. I'll tussle with it till the end of the day, but I don't want to fight with the work. I don't want to fight with the words. Because the work that I'm interested in has fought enough. Yeah. But there's also, every medium has its own history that I also have to look at, that I also have to reckon with, that I also have to keep cognizant of whenever I'm working within it. Because it wasn't always kind to people like me, and it wasn't always accessible. In fact, most of them weren't for a long time. So, all of these things, and many more that I haven't mentioned and still don't have the words for, have to come into play before I feel like it's okay for me to show up in this medium as myself, to show myself to the medium, and to allow both those things to work in a way that is best for whatever message is coming through. But sometimes I have to wait. With writing, I always have to wait. And it's so annoying. I have to sit there, and I have to sometimes, actually with writing have to fight in a way that I have to tussle more, because sometimes whatever I'm supposed to be writing isn't there yet, and I have to warm up for it. I have to be ready for it. I can't just sit and wait for it, because I wouldn't be ready. I have to write first. I have to write nonsense. I have to do jumping jacks. Like, I have to do something else first. I have to warm myself up. I have to prepare myself to be either surprised or prepare myself to slip into whatever realization is supposed to come to me. And that's so frustrating, because sometimes I just want it to be easy. And with photo, I have to reckon with the fact that I love this medium so much that I know it intimately in a way that I don't know it theoretically. And so much of the theory and so much of the practice is important in a way that I think I have made up for with passion and love. And I don't know if thinking is a medium, but if it is, that's where the ideas live. And that's where the message is always, always. And it's already complete in here. It's already done. But it's not yet translatable. I can't translate it to myself. It just has to live here for a while. So I'm just housing so much. Which is such a gift, but also, like, if thinking is a medium, then it's the one that takes the most out of me. So.
Let me just be quite honest. I could legit listen to you speak all day. just put it out there. You have such a beautiful way of, it's like a heart articulation.
That's so good. I love that.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And even how you paint, you're a sound painter, you know, with words. And even when you were saying like housing your thoughts, it made me think about, architecture, right? What's the house of your thoughts look like? You know, like if you have to create physical space of your thoughts.
Yes.
What would that look like?
Yes.
You know, because then that can bring all mediums to it.
Yeah.
You know? Or how would you, if the challenge was curate your frustration or writing process in the form of a space?
Mm-hmm.
How would you design that space? Like, that's just shit. I'm curious to see what you would do with that. You know, just to further investigate.
Yeah.
You know, something you said really resonated with me too. Just like last night, for example, I had this urge in wanting to write. You know that feeling when you just feel something, I gotta write.
Yeah.
And then you get to writing, it's like, but what is this?
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
What is this?
Yeah.
Right? So someone told me once, like, someone said, like, some author used to write drunk and edit sober.
That was Charles Bukowski.
Whomever it is, somebody said that, so I took it to heart. And I went to the bar,
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I'm frustrated here, so let me go figure out what my limit is.
Yep.
What my favorite drink at
Yes.
Went there, came back, and it was still like nothing. And when you were saying jumping jacks or right nonsense or something, it's like knowing what you have to do to summons what
Yep.
spirit is letting you know, like
Yep.
it's there, figure it out.
Yep.
But being equipped to knowing what your rituals are is like, it's really, it's important. Because I didn't find it, and I went to bed frustrated. Because I was like, yo, I got this thing that's like,
Yeah.
or maybe it's like the calm before the storm. Maybe it's like, it's there, and it's gonna come out one of these days.
Yeah.
But what do you do? Have you, what do you do for like any creativity blocks to unleash?
Unleash.
Or do you get blocked? Even with photography, do you ever experience that?
I've experienced coming up with ideas for the sake of coming up with ideas. And knowing as soon as I try and tell them to someone else that they don't agree with me, that these ideas are not mine to produce, they're not meant for me.
They're not meant for you to be the one to manifest?
They can come out and I would be proud of them, but they're not mine to manifest.
And you're okay with that?
I have to be.
Oh, okay, got it.
Because sometimes I have to love the idea enough to let it not be mine.
Do you ever feel responsible?
For certain ideas, I feel wholly responsible. There are so many revolutions that are mine alone. And that's hard, especially when you know it without knowing it. When you know it, your body knows it and your mind knows it, but time doesn't yet. So
what are
you have
your
to
thoughts on? I just want to ask you some other shit. The question that was designed for this interview was
Yes.
like basically your thoughts on liberal arts education. Right?
Okay.
So like, do you have any thoughts, opinions on the future of it?
It has to change very soon. I think it's has to undergo a change, and not a name change, not like hiring people for the sake of looking a certain way, and not changing the names of certain pedagogical undertakings because the name doesn't hold the weight of the consequences that end up going out into the world and creating world leaders. That's not what needs to happen. What needs to happen is that we need more space and more structure, which sounds completely paradoxical, but it needs to happen in such a way as to allow for expressive thought, freedom of thought, and interdisciplinary thought and ideology, and then it needs to be able to come into fruition through hard work and genuine conscience and awareness for the work that's being done, the history of that work, the land on which that work is being done, the people who've done that work before, the people who you're honoring and dishonoring by doing the work. There needs to be more of a conscientious approach, I feel. There's a lot that I'm not saying that needs to happen, and there's a lot that I don't know that needs to change. But the liberal arts education as a whole is a beautiful thing, and it's an incredible gift, and it's why I'm in this country studying and not my own. But I think that there will come a time when, and I don't know when that time will be, but there will come a time when the liberal arts education will no longer be for the liberal arts, but just for the arts, because it will not be equipped to provide the kind of education that's necessary for where this world is going. But I also think that it provides the most space I've ever had in any educational system. So, I mean, in some ways, to ask for more space would be to ask for something that is more than the baseline of what I know most people have had in their education. I think if we were to expand the liberal arts and to curate it in such a way as to pertain to whatever place it occupies and whatever people it serves, that would probably work. I don't know. I'm a student, but yeah. I feel like more people should have access to a kind of liberal arts education, because I think that it's the kind of education that creates incredibly well-rounded, free-spirited, incredibly strategic and independent thinking individuals. But I think it also doesn't prepare us for what's out there. I don't think it does. I think it does not adequately express the shark-like realities of an art world that is not kind. Always. Yep.
Now I want to hum that Swahili prayer right there. Like, what do you mean? To hear those words, you seem pretty optimistic. And hearing what is out there, a part of me feels like you are a part of the what's out there to come. You know, like like what is out there isn't ready for what you got for it.
Maybe not. I don't know. But I have no choice but to be optimistic. I have more than enough for one person in one life. My God. And for me to be optimistic is to believe in the truth that deserves to exist. And it's also, to be optimistic is to walk with so many souls behind me, who did so much for me to be sitting here right now. And also, it's so much more fun. It's so much more fun. And it's also so much more difficult because you're also in a kind of small space that is being credited and credible less and less every day. The optimist as anomaly. But I think it's the best kind of anomaly, so that's good.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.